The flying trunk. There once was a merchant who was so wealthy that he could have paved a whole street with gold, but he hadn't done such a thing. He knew better ways of using his money than that, because he knew the value of money. Now, his son got all the money, and he lived in the lap of luxury. This wastefulness of him made the whole money go, and the merchant's inheritance was soon gone. Now, his former friends didn't care for him anymore. At last, he had only 4 pennies and only a pair of slippers and a dressing gown to wear. But one of his friends heard his bad situation and decided to help him. His friend sent him an old trunk. On the trunk, it was written, "Pack your things," he said. "It is easier said than done. I don't have anything left to pack." Since he had nothing to pack, he sat in it. Merchant's son did not know much about the trunk. It was not an ordinary trunk. When one pressed on the lock, it would fly. He sat in it, then pressed the lock. The trunk started to fly. The trunk flew over the chimneys, into the clouds, with him in it. Whenever the bottom of the trunk cracked, he was frightened, but at last he came down safely. He wore his gown and slippers. Then he hid his trunk under some dry leaves in the woods and set out towards the nearest town. He happened to meet a nursery maid with a little child. Then he asked her a question by showing the great castle. "Excuse me, who lives in that great big castle with tremendous windows?" "That's where the Sultan's daughter lives," said the nursery maid. "But no one is ever permitted to visit her because her parents try to keep her safe." "Thank you," said the merchant's son. Back he went to the woods, sat in his trunk, pressed the lock, and flew over the roof of the castle. From there, he climbed down the princess's window. She was sleeping on a sofa, and she looked so beautiful that the merchant's son was shocked. She was a real sleeping beauty. She woke up and was terribly frightened, but he told her he was an angel who had come down through the air to see her. This pleased her very much. The princess relieved, and he told her some wonderful compliments that she hadn't heard before. The boy could speak softly and continued his compliments. Then he told her about the stork, which brings lovely little children from over the sea. They were such pretty stories. She liked all of them very much. Then she asked him to marry her, and the boy accepted her proposal right away. "But you must come on Saturday again, because my mother and father will be here to have tea with me on Saturday. They will be so proud when I tell them I am going to marry an angel. But make sure you have a really pretty tale to tell them, for both my parents love stories. My mother prefers one that teaches a lesson, but my father likes something funny to make him laugh," she told him. Then she gave him a golden ring. "I shall bring no other wedding present except a fairy tale," he told her, and he left. He flew away, bought himself new clothes, and went to the woods to think about a fairy tale. At last, he made up a story for Saturday. The princess told her parents everything. The Sultan, his wife, and the whole court awaited him at the princess's tea party. They gave him a splendid reception. They asked him to tell both deep and funny stories. On the 3rd day, the Sultan and his wife went to the castle to visit the princess. They welcomed the young man kindly. "Won't you tell us a thoughtful story?" asked the Sultan's wife. "And funny," said the Sultan. "Of course," he said, and started to tell his story. The young man told them a wonderful story. Both of them liked it too much. The story made the queen think, and the Sultan laugh. They gave approval to their marriage. So the wedding day was set, and the news flew around the town. The whole city was decorated with lights. The news was delighted in the whole country, and everyone made preparations to join the wedding. The merchant's son bought fireworks and loaded them in his trunk, then flew over the town to announce his wedding. All the people believed that the princess was about to marry an angel. After a while, the merchant's son came down in the woods with his trunk. He went to the town to to hear what sort of impression he made with his shows. Everybody he asked had his own version, but all agreed it had been fine. "I saw the angel himself," said someone. "His eyes shone like stars. He was wrapped in a fiery cloak," said another. Then he went back to the woods to rest in his trunk. But what had happened? The trunk was burned. A spark from the fireworks had set it on fire, and now the trunk was burned to ashes. He couldn't fly anymore. He had no way to reach his bride. On the other hand, the princess waited for him on the roof all day long. Most likely she is still waiting there, while the merchant's son is wandering around the world, telling his stories to the people.